Okay, folks. So, there's a video that I made where I talked about the first guitar that I ever built, and I said I couldn't find the neck. Well, this is the neck, the first neck that I ever built. I found it. I don't know where I found it. I can't remember where I found it, but I found it. It's hard or rock maple, probably a 13-degree angle, and had a rosewood fretboard with a 25-inch scale and no radius on it, the flat fretboard. So cool. Found that. I was looking for it. Anyways, so today I want to talk about kind of like a backstory, I guess, of me. And this will go back to, I'll probably go back to like, high school, 1995 or something like that. 1995, I was in 9th grade, and I would go to school. I'd get off school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, get on the bus, go home, and get home about 3:30. And during the summertime, during the wintertime, anytime actually, during the summertime I worked, all the time. But during the wintertime when we got to school, get home in the evenings, and my dad owned a heating and air conditioning business. I lived up in Pennsylvania, so he did heating and air conditioning up in Pennsylvania. So, get off school, and I would go with him in the evenings from 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 or however long it took. Usually didn't stay past 7 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock. And we'd go out and fix furnaces, replace furnaces, do cleanings, go buy furnaces, sell furnaces. He had his own business. He bought the business in the late 70s, early 80s, or something like that. And he turned it into a successful business. So during the winter when I went to school, I would get done from school and we'd work putting furnaces and air conditioners in. Then when it comes summertime, naturally, I worked with him every day, Monday through Friday, in the summertime, replacing furnaces. But we did some really strenuous work. Maybe not for the time. I don't know. It was the 90s. But we'd go into these old houses and they'd have big cool furnaces. And the only thing I remember about them was he always called them either a 24-inch cool furnace or a 27-inch cool furnace. And basically, you get down this stairs into a person's basement. Had like a 6-foot basement, so you're like bending over, getting down inside there. And you get over where the furnace was, and there'd be this furnace that would be, humongously big. And it was basically a sheet metal around the furnace itself. And there's a heating fan in there, a fan in there that blew the heat, and it went out into like 6 or 8 inch galvanized, what do they call it, sheet metal, whatever. Or in ducts, it'd go out into ducts, is what they called them. And you go to the different parts of the house, and that's how you heated the house. So we'd be replacing these furnaces. So we'd go in there, and it was a dirty job. You're in a basement, furnace has been in there for 20, 30 years. It's covered in dust, covered in, So we're in there, we take drills, and all the sheet metal screwed together with screws. So you take all these screws out of, you spend half a day just taking screws out of all the sheet metal stuff. Tearing down ducts off the ceiling, and it's just, you got cobwebs everywhere, just dust, and it's just a mess whenever you get done. So you got all the sheet metal out, and we drag all the sheet metal out, throw it in the back of the pickup truck that he had. And you get down to the actual furnace itself. So there's this furnace that stood, I don't know, probably like 5 foot tall. And it's big enough where you couldn't put your arms around it. It's this big around, 5 foot tall. Cast or steel or something, I don't know. On the back of it, there was this big, they called it a kidney. And it looked like it attached to where a smoke pipe would attach. And so they had like 2 screws, you take the screws off, and this kidney lifted off and set on the ground. It probably weighed, I don't know, 50 pounds. I don't know, maybe more. And you lift that off and take it off. And you drag that outside and throw it in the back of the truck. Then, you got the furnace itself. The furnace it's basically round. It's got a door in the front, open a door. Inside there's a set of grates. And then on the inside of the furnace, lined 3 or 4 rows high, are fire brick. whole inside of this furnace is lined with fire brick. And them fire brick weighed a ton. I don't know what they weighed. I don't know what the whole furnace weighed altogether. I'm going to guess it's had to be 500 pounds. Maybe not. Maybe 300 pounds. I don't know. It was heavy. I know it was heavy. And we get this thing, and sometimes we take the fire bricks out. We take 5-gallon buckets. A lot of the times we did that. We take 5-gallon buckets and fill the 5-gallon buckets full of fire bricks, drag them out, dump them in the back of the truck, bring them back down, and fill them full of fire bricks, drag them out. But sometimes, if the furnace was good, or if he didn't, you know, because usually if you took the fire bricks out, they kind of got broken up and you couldn't use them. So if it was something he wanted to use again, we left the fire bricks in them. It would make the furnace really heavy, because them fire bricks weigh a lot. And we take a hand cart. We just take a hand cart to it, strap a strap to it, tighten it down so it wouldn't fall off the hand cart. And we basically grab that thing, both of us, and drag that thing across the basement floor over to a set of steps. And the steps could be, you know, sometimes they weren't real bad. Sometimes they were like 4 steps, 5 steps going up. Sometimes there were more. Usually on the older houses they weren't that many though. You get over, you take it and lay it down on the steps, then you crawl up over the furnace, get outside, and reach down in the basement, towards the basement, grab a hold of the hand cart. We'd each get on the side, grab a hold of the hand cart, and we look at each other, ready? And we'd pull it up to the first step, and then we'd stop. And it's kind of sit on the step and rest. You sit there and catch your breath. Yeah, you get wore out. Ready? Grab it and move up to the next step. You know, grab it, and it would take 20 minutes to get this thing off 4 flight of steps. And then once you got it up there, and we'd both grab it and try to take this hand cart and pull. You know, we'd get the truck as close as we could, but sometimes you couldn't get the truck real close. So sometimes you had to go out across the person's yard like 20 feet. So you got this furnace that weighs a couple 100 pounds, if not more. I don't know what they weighed. They were heavy, I remember, but they were really heavy. And so you're trying to pull this, and the hand cart's got real small wheels on across the grass, and it's not pulling at all. And you get over to the truck, and the same thing. You take it and lean it on the back. You lay the tailgate down, lean the furnace on the tailgate itself, and we get over on each side. He'd grab a side, I'd grab a side, ready, and we'd pick up and slide up onto the back of the truck. And this was, you know, it wasn't every day we changed one out, but we put furnaces in, so we did it a lot. From 95, I think I started working with him. My 2 other brothers worked with him from 92 to 94, 95, and then they kind of got out of it. And, you know, at that time I was 16, so I started working with him 95 through like 98 or 99. And that's basically what from the time I was 16 to I was 19 or 20, that's what I did for a job. There's one time we was putting a furnace in a new house. We was putting a burning boiler in. Same way, but we was going down a set of flights. And it was a new house they built, so they built it with like 8 or 9 foot ceilings. We was putting the furnace in the basement, so there was like 14 steps down into the actual basement. So we had to take this burning boiler that it had to weigh 500 pounds. I don't know what it weighed. It weighed a lot. Get it off the truck the same way on the hand cart, drag it over to the steps. We each get on the side, and basically the same way you put it in, you take them out, you put them in, you just grab it, slide it to a set of steps, hold it, catch your breath, pick it up, slide it down to the next set of steps, you know, the whole way down. But on this one, we were going down, and it was, you know, 14 steps down, so it was, you know, it was a good ways down in there. You figure, you know, ground level is basically the top of the basement, and you figure it's 8, 9 feet, you know, sloping down in. So it was like 14, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 steps down in there. So what it was the steps were only so wide. So we got down about, I don't know, 8 or 9 steps down in. We was about 4 steps on the bottom, I guess, 4 or 5 steps on the bottom. And I was basically laying on my stomach up at the top, reaching down in. Or I might have been down a step or two. Holding on to the side of the handle. He was down a step or 2, holding on to the side of the handle. Okay, and we got like 4 steps to go, so we're going to pick it up and drop it down to step 3. But whenever, you know, you're holding it with both hands, whenever we pulled it up to go down, and when we hit the bottom, take a break, it wasn't secured. And so you release your pressure because you're going to, you know, as soon as I left from pressure, it took off down through, and he didn't really go. And it drug him down them steps. It hit the floor. When the furnace hit the floor, it stood back up because it's laying on its side, just because it's on the steps going down. It stood up like that, never stood up. It spun like, I don't know, it spun like halfway around a circle, and he's hung on and flung him around. I jumped up off the steps and I come running down. I'm like, man, you all right, Dad? And he's like, yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm sorry, I lost my gripper. Sorry about that. You know, it wasn't like you went, you know, but it still drug him down. That's how heavy the furnace was. You know, once it gone, you just leave go. You know, he didn't leave go. And, you know, he didn't get hurt or anything. The furnace wasn't hurt or anything. We ended up putting the furnace in. Didn't have to take a furnace out, luckily, because it was a new house. But, you know, we did furnaces. So, but the reason I'm telling you stories is my dad was self-employed. He worked in the coal mines in the 70s. I don't know how many years he worked in the coal mines. 6, 8, 10 years, I don't know. And then he got I think he got laid off in the coal mines. And he went to work for a heating company where they delivered like fuel oil and stuff. And then he ended up buying a business off a guy. And it wasn't much of a business. I don't know the details. He bought a business and he ended up turning it into a very successful heating business. So, you know, by the time I was born, 79, I think like 78 or 79 is when he bought the business, I think. Might have been 80, but I was too young to remember. But I always remember growing up, he was always self-employed. And, you know, from the time I could work, you know, about 16 or so, I started working with him. You know, that was I always wanted to be self-employed. Always wanted to be self-employed. I never wanted to work for no one else because being self-employed is a lot different than working for somebody else. And if you've never been self-employed or never worked for someone, well, if you work for someone, you're not really self-employed. But with me being that he owned a business, it was different than like if you worked for him, because it'd be like a job for you. But for me, you know, I was basically the owner's son, so, you know, I knew what it was like to be self-employed. You know, then in like 99, you know, the business got kind of slow. He got an offer for a lot better job, and he ended up not really shutting the business down, but taking this other job and then doing this on the side, so it wasn't a full-time thing at that point. And then I ended up going and getting a real job. And I think the first one I had was Champion Homes, building, what do they call them? Mobile homes. You know, that was my first real job. And that's, you know, you start at 5 in the morning, you go and punch a clock, you're there till you get done. It's 3 o'clock, you're done. It's 5 o'clock, you're done. You work 5 days a week. When you're self-employed, you don't do that. In self-employed, you know, there might be days you're slow, you might not work at all. There might be days you're swamped where you work 8 or 10, 12-hour days for 4 or 5 days in a row. You work on the weekends, sometimes you don't. It's a completely different story when you're self-employed to where, you know, you got a real job where you got to go punch a clock, work for someone else. They kind of tell you when you have to work, and, you know, when you're self-employed, you can kind of set your own schedule. You can't set your own schedule completely, but you can kind of set your own schedule. So, you know, after I had my first job, I was like, man, I definitely want to be self-employed. I don't want to work for no one else, you know. So, you know, I don't know. I think it was about, I think I must have been about, I don't know, 21, 22, when I started getting into woodworking. Not really woodworking. The only woodworking I did was build guitars. But I think that's about the time I built my first guitar. It was about 22. That neck right there was the first one I built. I think that's about 22 years old. I'm 36 now. So, you know, and at that time I thought, you know, I can take this and turn it into my business, turn it into a business where I can be self-employed. You know, whatever. I mean, yeah, let's do it. So, yeah, that was a kind of the thing that's kind of the road I chose. I decided that that's what I was going to do. You know, and that was 2003. Might have been 24, I don't know. 23, 24. And, so, I started building guitars. I started, you know, back then I didn't know anything about, I really don't know a whole lot about how to be a businessman, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, not business smart. I don't know if it's not business smart, but, you know, I've never ran a business. I've worked for my dad who ran a business. I don't know a ton about being a businessman. I just know that being self-employed is way better than working for somebody else. And you can make a lot more money being self-employed than you can working for someone else. It depends, I guess, what your job title is. If you go to school and get an education and stuff, you know, naturally, and get it, you know, you can make more money. But anyways, that was what I wanted to do. So that's the road I chose. And so I was still living in Pennsylvania at the time. So I moved to West Virginia. In '04, I think I moved to West Virginia. Basically, I got another job working at a different trailer factory, building Fleetwood travel trailers. So I was working there, and basically I worked at Fleetwood during the days, and you know, in the evenings, I got off work at 3 o'clock. It wasn't a bad job. It was 6:30 to 3 or something like that. 8-hour days, and once in a while I had to come in on a Saturday and work. It wasn't a bad job. And so I'd work there, and in the evenings, get home. I was home like 20 after 3, I think. Work on guitars from, you know, in the evenings on the weekends. And so that's what I did. I had bought a house, and I had a 18 by 24, I believe, garage, an 18 by 24 garage, which I basically turned into my guitar shop. I basically blocked where the garage door was. I blocked it off and turned that into a wall, and had a regular door come in, and then I had all my tools set up in there. And yeah, it's different than the shop I shoot my videos in now. I don't live at that place anymore. So I was doing my, you know, building guitars. I wasn't repairing guitars then. I didn't really start repairing guitars until about 4 or 5 years ago. I always, for whatever reason, I always believed that, I don't know why, I wasn't capable of repairing guitars. I wasn't capable of repairing guitars. I don't know why I thought that. I just always thought that, you know, maybe you had to go to school to be a repairman, or had to, you know, and, you know, you don't really have to. My theory is the best education is going out and doing something, learning from your mistakes. I think that will teach you more than going to school. I'm not saying school's bad. I'm not saying that at all. There's a lot of people who go to school and are really smart people and you know, make a really good living for themselves because of that. I'm not, you know, I'm not out here saying don't go to school. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people that go to school and get an education and end up not using their education at all and doing something else. And, you know, that money could have been used somewhere else. And you can learn a lot. If you don't have the money to go to school, don't think that you can't learn a lot by doing something and learning from your mistakes. That is the best school you can go to right there, I think. Do something, you mess it up, you know, you just learn how not to mess it up. You know, next time you do it, you don't do it that way, it's going to mess up. You know, you learn from your mistakes. That's how a lot of people learn to do a lot of stuff. So, you know, and I don't know why I didn't think that about repairs, but I kind of steered away from repairs, and I just basically worked on trying to build guitars, trying to get, you know, trying to get my version of a perfect guitar. And, you know, it's something that, you know, it just takes time. You're not going to go out and build your first guitar and it's going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, and you have to learn from that. That's what I did over the last 12 or 13 years, or however long I've been doing it. 13 years, I think. And I just basically go out, and every time I do something, it's, you know, a lot of stuff that I do, I've never done it before. I'll go watch a couple YouTube videos on see how, get an idea of how other people do it, and then basically go do it. A lot of stuff I mess up the first time.